You always do.
I'll tell you when you go.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, we're now live. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll call the meeting to order. Prior to commencing our regular business this afternoon, I would like to take this opportunity to announce that Council has selected Township Clerk Brittany Drury to be appointed to the role of interim CEO. Ms. Drury will be appointed to the role of effective September 18th, 2021, following the departure of our current CEO, Mr. Alan Meneses. Council has partnered with the Phillips Group to recruit a full-time permanent successor to the CEO role. Council is dedicated to serve the Georgian Bluffs community to the highest standards and intend to source a CEO who shares that passion. Ms. Drury will hold roles of clerk and interim CEO concurrently throughout the recruitment process. On behalf of myself and Council, we welcome Ms. Drury to this role and thank staff for their dedication and teamwork throughout the recruitment process and beyond. The Township is home to an amazing complement of staff who continue to surpass and exceed all expectations, working as an effective and efficient team to serve Georgian Bluffs community. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Brittany, for taking on this responsibility.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, now we're moving on with our land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge with respect to history, spirituality, culture of the Anishinaabe, the people of the first stars known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations who have inhabited this land from time immemorial. Further give thanks to the Chippewa of Saugeen and the Chippewa of Miwok, known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of the land. We acknowledge the Métis and Inuit whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all the diverse people. So moving off our agenda, we're down to agenda. Is there any item that Council would like to add to our agenda? Seeing none, I have a recommendation here then that the council agenda be approved as presented. Someone to move to put on the floor, please. Moved by Councilor Pringle, second by Councilor Bertha. Is there any discussion on the motion before us? Seeing none, show of hands, all in favor? The motion is carried. Council, please give me a little bit of leeway here. I'm looking at a screen with people on it, and a council member beside me, so just bear with me. If don't be afraid to speak up. We're down to declaration of interest. If there's any declarations, please call anytime you see fit during the meeting. We have no public hearings, no delegations, no correspondence. We're down to staff reports. Our staff report is concerning closed session recording. I have a recommendation here that report LEG 2021-25 closed session audio and video recording be received, and that policy COU 01-2021 recording of council and committee of council closed meetings attached to this report as Appendix A is hereby approved, and that the appropriate and necessary amendments to the Township Procedural Bylaw 2019-125 and records retention policy be presented at a future council meeting for authorization. Someone to move to put on the floor, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by Councilor Colburn. Madam Clerk, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So to start, this report and the appended policy will approve recording both audio and video for closed sessions of both Committee of the Whole, council and committees of council as they are created. This direction comes from the Ontario Ombudsman's Office and is a best practice recommendation out of their open and closed meeting best practices guide. Council formally gave direction to staff to investigate incorporation of this procedure into our council process. This report will satisfy that direction. You'll note that we budgeted $2,000 for this project in 2021. We have found a way to do so without spending any money. We currently have the technology to facilitate this audio and video recording of closed sessions. We simply just have to work it into our procedures. I have recommended that our records retention policy be amended to facilitate retaining these recordings. I am recommending that they only be retained for 1 year. That is recommended by the Ontario Ombudsman Office and is best practice throughout the province as of right now. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Does council have any questions on this motion before us? Seeing none, let's show of hands, all in favor of the motion, please. The motion is carried. Moving on with our reports, the next one is,
Mr. Mayor, your microphone.
sorry, got to turn my mic on. Our next report is Council and Committee Electronic Participation. The recommendation is that report LET 2021-26 Council and Committee Electronic Participation be received, and that policy COU 02-2020 Electronic Participation be amended to remove attendance requirements as described in this report, and that committee hereby supports providing flexibility to members of council and committees of council to participate electronically in meetings subject to section 2.1 of the proposed policy. Someone to move to put on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Bartlett. Madam Clerk, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report will also satisfy former direction of council. You'll recall that at a meeting in June, we reviewed both the closed session and electronic participation policies and associated amendments to them to bring them up to date with current procedures. At that meeting, we did discuss adding more flexibility into the electronic participation policy as it stood, specifically to remove the 25% annual allotment of meetings that council members are permitted to attend electronically. The amendments that you see in front of you this evening essentially remove any restrictions in how any member chooses to attend any meeting. In moving forward, should council approve these amendments, each member will have the authority to dictate or decide how they wish to participate in any meetings moving forward without any allotment of percentage of meetings that you're permitted to attend. So in doing so, we have included an amended version of section 2.1 of this policy, which provides that flexibility, but also provides the discretion to the CAO, clerk, and mayor to request that council members attend any meeting in person should there be a sensitive matter or a matter that will garner a lot of public attention. We can request that council attend in person in those events. But otherwise, this policy will give you the flexibility to determine how you wish to participate in meetings moving forward. And with that, I would ask if there's any questions, and I'm available.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Does council have any questions of this motion before us? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote on the motion before us, please. A show of hands, please. All in favor? The motion is carried. Good job, Madam Clerk. Now we're moving on to our next report, Finance. I have a recommendation here that report FIN 2021-19.
Mr. Mayor, if I may interrupt.
Sure.
We missed item 8.1.3, being the 2022 council and committee meetings calendar.
Sorry, Madam Clerk, I was jumping your report. I apologize for that. I saw me at the page. So the next report is council and committee minutes calendar. I have a recommendation here that report LEG 2021-27, 2022 council and committee meeting calendar be received, and that the 2022 council and committee meetings calendar be approved. Someone to move to put the motion on the floor, please. Moved by Councilor Pringle, second by Deputy Mayor Carlson. Now, Madam Clerk, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And prior to my outlining this report, I would like to give a big shout out to our Deputy Clerk, Carly Craig, who worked on this report for the Clerk's Department. So great job to Carly. In considering the 2022 meetings calendar, we have a couple of things to review in regards to the election. So you'll note in the report that per amendments to the Municipal Elections Act, some of the previous deadlines from the 2018 election have changed. So nomination period will now open in May, being May 2nd, and it will close in August, being August 19th, therefore elongating the nomination process. In considering voting, as we previously discussed around this horseshoe, we will be hosting a hybrid election in 2022, therefore having an elongated advanced voting period commencing October 6th and concluding on election day being October 24th. So, effective October 6th, voting will open. Therefore, we have proposed that there are no meetings scheduled in October of 2022. The new term of council will start on November 15th, with the inaugural meeting being held on November 16th. You'll note that there are no smaller committee meetings held in November or December, while we accommodate the orientation process as well as appoint new members to the various committees. And with that, I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Does council have any questions of our 2022 calendar? Councilor Barker, go ahead. You're muted, I believe, Carol.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Clerk, have they released the date for OSUM yet? OSUM conference?
I don't believe so, but I will double check and get back to council.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Does council have any other questions of this motion before us? I do not see any, so a show of hands, all in favor of the motion before us. The motion is carried. Now we'll move on to the agenda. We're down to finance. That report FIN 2021-19 grant match agreement be received, and that committee hereby directs staff to execute agreement with grant match for the provisions of a proactive government funding application process for the township. Someone's moved to put it on the floor, please. Moved by Councilor Barfoot, second by Councilor Pringle. Madam Treasurer, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So staff were approached by a service company being Grant Match, wanting us to engage them in the grant application, in their grant application services. So there are a number of grants out there, and simply there's so many that staff are not aware of all the grants that are available to municipalities. When there's a public announcement made, we apply for those grants, but there's a number that aren't announced publicly by the province or the federal government or even by private corporations that we're not aware of. So what Grant Match does is they basically seek out grant opportunities for municipalities and, you know, provide recommendations on some grants that meet some of our upcoming projects or that they feel we would have a project for. And then what they do is they submit the application on your behalf. So this fee for this service is 10% of all grants received up to $1 million. And then if a grant is greater than $1 million, their fee is 5%. And I understand that this can seem like quite a significant administration fee, but the one thing to keep in mind is this is incremental revenue. So these are grants that right now we're not receiving because we're not applying for. So 90% of a grant that we're not currently getting is better than 0. One thing I did note in my report is that just because we signed this agreement with Grant Match doesn't mean that all grant applications have to be performed by them. So if there is, a provincially or federally announced grant that staff would like to apply for ourselves, we can do that. And that's where I envision, senior management having to strategize a little bit about which ones we should apply for and which ones we have Grant Match apply for on our behalf. I do think this is a valuable service to the township, as any additional grant funds we receive allow us, to try to keep our tax rate lower. Any extra revenue is good revenue. So I hope council will consider this agreement.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. Does council have any questions on this motion before us? Councilor Coburn, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to our Director of Finance. Is this something that we have to do? We have to go through the RFP process for Cassie?
We can choose to waive the RFP process for that. So it's a bit unique in that if we don't get any grant funding, we don't pay them anything. I did a quick search and I wasn't aware of any other companies that offer this service. So if we choose to sign this agreement, we can also choose to waive our procedure by law to enter this agreement with them.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. Councilor Coburn, do you have a follow-up question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think I heard you correctly, Cassie, say that they approached us. I wonder if we have a sense for the success rate for this company, and if we were able to follow up with others who have used them to see what their satisfaction with this company is.
Cassie, go ahead.
If that's council's desire, I can certainly ask for that data and show it to some existing client.
Mr. CEO, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. In my discussions with the company, they currently provide the service to multiple municipalities, and they have been providing this service to multiple municipalities for multiple years. I don't know what success rate would be, but I think, as our treasurer said, getting something where we're currently not getting anything is well worth the effort. We believe that they will be successful in getting us grants that we're currently not applying for or aware of. I think, as Cassie said, it's more than just federal and provincial grant that they would mine. There's utility companies that provide grants, there's private corporations, there's private endowments, there's a whole bunch of other avenues where grants are available to municipalities that we're currently not tapping into. So based on their track record, based on the number of clients that they have their municipalities, our recommendation is that we pursue this. As Cassie said, there's no cost to us. If they're not successful, it doesn't cost us a penny. We can always look at it. We can always have the ability to terminate the contract if we don't feel there's any value to it. But to answer the councilor's question, there are multiple municipalities currently using this service.
Thanks, Al. Councilor Coburn, before I go to the deputy mayor, does that answer your question good enough?
Somewhat, I guess. I'm just looking at making sure we're getting the best value for our money, and without looking at other comparators, I'm not entirely sure that we are, but I guess it is good news that other municipalities are using and continue to use this company. Thank you.
Councilor Coburn, it sounds like it's a no-win situation with the municipality that is going to give us an opportunity to, this company maybe will pick up grants that we don't even know about and can look to help us get them. So I think it's a good thing. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I totally understand the pay structure, and I totally understand the concept of not mining for grants. The point I was just simply trying to make is grant writing is a specialty, and some companies are more successful at submitting grants that are approved than others. That was the point I was trying to make. Other than that, I have no issues.
Thank you, Councilor Coburn. Your point's well noted. I believe staff heard you plain clear. Deputy Mayor Carlton, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do remember, I'm going to say about 6 years ago, that we participated with another company with a similar idea that they were going to go out and get us grants. Now, they charged an upfront $2,000 kind of annual subscription fee to take part in that. And we didn't have any luck with them because they basically just sent out a list each month and we had to pick and choose from that list and do everything from there. So I guess I'm a little hesitant on it because I just wonder how much they're putting into it. And maybe they're putting more into it if they're not charging an upfront charge. But I know the last one we had to pay $2,000 upfront to belong.
Well, I think the way the agreement will be written and the way this company works, they can't just basically sit on their ass and do nothing. They have to go look for grants in order for them to get paid. So I'm quite sure that there's going to be more ambition there at this company. Okay? Kathy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Deputy Mayor's comment, I do remember that program and you're correct. So basically what they did is we thought we were signing up for, you know, kind of a application service. And what they did was they just sent us a list of available grants and then we had to apply. So this is a much different service in that they actually submit the application for us. They work with staff to get the necessary figures and they prepare the application. And they will also, if successful, will prepare the progress reports throughout the grant term. So this is a much different service, Deputy Mayor Carlton, than what we received in the past.
Follow up, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you. So, okay, I'm okay with that. I guess then, where do they get the criteria? Does staff have to sit down with them and give them a listing of what would we be interested in, or how do they arrive at what they're going to suggest to us?
Cassie, you able to answer that?
Yes, so it's kind of the other way around. So what they actually do is they let us know what we are available or what is available to be applied for. And then they work with us to look at projects that we may have and ones that suit the criteria of those grants. So it's much more of a working relationship between the two groups than just, you know, here's your list, decide what you want to apply for. They work with us on that.
Okay, Deputy Mayor. I believe Councillor Thompson, that your hand is up.
Thanks very much. I'm not opposed to it. I like the idea of us uncovering grants that we're not otherwise aware of. I think, and maybe people are aware of this, I think we do have to be cautious when we pick them because I think the structure means if you're approved, they get paid. So if we have them approved, if we have them go for a grant and they get the grant, we've got to spend it. So we can't, I think in the past we've sought some grants out and thought, well, if we get this grant, we might be able to use it. So I'm looking at, the Kemble is a good example. So if they go out, we've got $1 million grant. If they get $1 million grant, they get $100,000, whether or not we use the grant or not. Am I right about that?
Cassie?
Yes, you are correct. So it's upon approval of the grant. So one thing we've talked about at senior management and one thing we're working towards is, developing a binder of grant ready projects. So basically we want to get to the point where if Grant Match comes to us and says, hey, we found this grant for climate change and shore road erosion or something, we have a project ready and identified to go. So it is something to consider, but if we are applying for these grants, we need to have every intention of moving forward with the project. 100%, yeah.
Thank you, Cassie. Councillor Thompson, did that answer your question?
Yeah, it was just more of a comment that we'll have to be sort of aware of that. So I don't know what happens to them if they come back to us a number of times and say, hey, we've found these grant proposal opportunities and we're saying no, if they're okay with that or not. I guess what I want to do is make sure we're all clear about the relationship before we start.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Cassie, go ahead.
So Sorry, I should note that one more thing that's going to help us with this is in October, I'll be presenting our 10-year capital plan to council. So, it takes some of the guesswork out of it. We know the projects we need to get done in the next 10 years, and we can use that plan to identify which grants we want to apply for and harvest.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. I see no other questions of council. So I'm going to ask for all those in favor of the motion before us, a show of hands, please. The motion is carried. Thank you. We're now down to operations. The first one is about the Potawatomi water systems. The recommendation is that report OPS 2021-043 be received for information. Someone to move to put on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Colburn, second by Deputy Mayor Carlton. Steve, there you are. Go ahead, Director of Operations, Steve.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the council here. An inspection was completed on this water station here on May 18th, 2021. The final inspection report was received by staff on July 30th, 2021. Final inspection rating has not been received yet, as the Ministry of Environment and Conservation and Parks has changed their system on how they produce the rating system. So we're still waiting for that final rating to come back to us. At this time, there are no orders that were noted to us during the inspection. There were no non-compliances with regulatory requirements or actions required as well. And then there was no recommendations or best practices noted in this inspection. So at this time, we are same as what we were last year. So once we do get the final the final rating back, we will be forwarding it to council for future report.
Thank you, Director of Operations. Does council have any questions on this motion before us? Not seeing none, a show of hands, all in favor of the motion, please. The motion is carried. So we're going down to our next report. It's for the Child Lake Water System. The recommendation is that the report OPS 2021-044 be received for information. Someone to move to put on the floor, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by Councillor Barfa. Mr. Director of Operations, Steve, anytime I read these reports and I see zero all the way down through the reports, it makes me feel that everything's fine. And with your expertise on this particular one, there was a 2 showed up. I wonder if you could comment on that, please.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to council here. An inspection was completed there on March 5th, 2021 for the Shallow Lake Water Treatment Plant. As noted here through the summary of the results of this report, there were no orders against us, no non-compliances with regulatory requirements or actions, but we did also receive 2 recommendations and best practices that were listed in the report here. During that, the time of when they were doing the inspection, as mentioned at the time of the inspection, the owner may wish to contact the permit to take water coordinator at the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks London Regional Office with trending data showing the static water levels have a minimum influxation over the years to determine if current biweekly or quarter static water level measurements requirements could be reduced. At that time, Aqua took in consideration of that recommendation and has followed up with them, and they are moving forward with looking at doing more of a couple more different water level measurements and trying to kind of cut back on it because we were doing a lot more recording versus kind of being less restricted. The other recommendation too was noted. It was noted that temperatures of the microbiology samples exceeded the laboratory recommendations by 10 degrees Celsius on numerous occasions. The operating authority has taken steps to address this that have included changing the client used to transport the drinking water samples to which appears to have been more successful. So Aqua, who is our operating authority here, is also monitoring the samples regularly as well to determine if additional ice packs or altering the packaging is required to help out during transportation. During this process as well, a final inspection rating of 100% was received for this facility.
Thank you, Steve. Does council have any questions on this motion before us? I do not see any. Show of hands, all in favor of the motion, please. The motion was carried. Moving on to agenda, public question period. Madam Clerk, did we receive any questions from the public?
We did not.
Thank you. We know unfinished business, we've no new business. We have, does any council member wish to bring a notice of motion forward? Seeing none, I'm gonna move on to the agenda. We're gonna go down to our closed session. The recommendation is that the committee of the whole move into closed session at 5:35 PM with the CAO clerk, director of finance, to discuss one, litigation, potential litigation, including matters before administration tribunals affecting municipality or local boards. Someone's moved to put on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Colburn. Show of hands, all in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Now you have to go out of this into your in-camera session, please.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, we are now live. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Committee went into closed session to discuss matters under open meeting exemption E of section 239 of the Municipal Act. No actions were taken as a result of closed session discussions. So moving on the agenda, Council will meet as regular scheduled meeting September 8th, 2021 at 5 p.m. As a reminder to the public, we welcome all those interested in participating in the scheduled public drop-in session regarding trail uses throughout the township on September 9th, 2021, from 7 till 9 p.m. The session will be held virtually with all virtual meeting details available on the township website. If we have no other business here tonight, I ask for a motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlson, second by Councilor Pringle. If you have no other business, show of hands, all in favor of adjournment? We're now adjourned. Thank you, everybody.